Here we go. No stranger to fighting against the clock here. I intend to keep my Friday promise at about 11:25 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here in Los Angeles. We get this thing up before midnight. That's 2 weeks in a row that we stayed consistent and we uploaded on Friday. I'm in the time zone that lends to that. So, we're showing up. I feel like shit. I'll be honest, I feel like shit. I feel better than I did before. Earlier today, I took a 2-hour nap, woke up super fucking sweaty. But the medicine was working while I was sleeping, so now we're doing a lot better. And I decided not to be a bitch, and we're gonna get this episode out. We're gonna get my weekend going the right way, and hopefully I'm not as fucking sniffly for the rest of this weekend here. I have such little plans for this. Not little plans, but little articulated plans. So, bear with me. No stranger to one of these Bullpen Podcast episodes just being a scattered fuckfest of thoughts and ideas. That's not going to change. But usually I have at least a little bit more written down. Not this time. But anyway, that's enough of a fucking preamble. This isn't the goddamn Constitution. Episode 74, I think I said some shit about how I'm lucky enough to where I get to take this comedy shit seriously now. And I'm happy to report that about a week ago, March 1st, I did my first ever paid comedy show at the Fourth Wall in Los Angeles, and it was I had to talk about it. It was a big fucking deal just because I had never actually done an actual show. I'd done 28 open mics in my life before doing this show. 3 of those open mics were in St. Louis. I talked about those. I fully intended to talk about each open mic on this show as well, but once the new year started and I kind of realized I was just getting on stage all the fucking time. So my 29th time on stage doing stand-up comedy was this show on March 1st. And I had, Amanda went, I had some friends who went, and it was just one of those things that you'll never fucking forget. And it felt good to get up there and fucking let it rip. And it went well. I'm happy to report it fucking went well. I'm still waiting on the video. I'm excited to share some clips and all that shit. People have been asking for clips. I don't have any. I record all my sets, but that's only audio. But yeah, man, I did my first ever actual comedy show, and I know that I said earlier this year I was going to talk about every single open mic and every single time getting on stage, but very quickly that did not line up at all, because leading up to this thing I was getting on stage multiple times a week. This podcast is supposed to be once a week, and I very quickly realized, I'm like, man, I gotta figure some shit out before I actually get on stage and ask people to come and actually perform. Oh, excuse me, that was a burp. I told you I'm battling. Man, but I had to get ready. I had to figure some shit out. I had to figure out what jokes were the best and the most suitable and all that. And it's one of those things where it's like, I was just so happy that I went in feeling good, and I knew I was going to be comfortable on stage no matter the result. And thankfully people in there were willing to laugh, and they were ready to laugh, and they were excited to hear the stupid shit I had to say. And it was crazy. I did not, I mean, I felt prepared. I was ready for it to go well, but you don't have control of shit. You don't have control of anything when you get up there. And we're about a week removed from it now. Once the clock strikes midnight, Cinderella, it'll be, about a week from that day. Again, today's Friday. I'm getting this thing up before midnight. Still counts. Still got it up on Friday. I could have went back to sleep. I'm glad that I didn't. And, if you're listening to this, man, I appreciate it. We're going to keep this to a tight 10 minutes or so. We're going to keep this fucking schedule. And, yeah, I was excited to be able to, report this to the podcast crowd. Now, this is a baseball show. Baseball gets talked about in every fucking episode. So here you go. There's a major league shortstop named Paul DeYoung who went to Illinois State University in Bloomington Normal, where I grew up. And he made his major league debut. Man, I should have looked up the year, but I'm not going to slow myself down now. 2017 or 2018. I don't remember the exact year. Hold on. Where's this fucking article? I think 2017. I know the guy who wrote this article. I know him pretty well. But I went back and I wanted to read up on, 2017. 2017, Paul DeYoung makes his MLB debut. Illinois State alum, where I grew up. Didn't grow up at Illinois State, grew up in the same town. But when he made his MLB debut, he hit a home run in his very first fucking at-bat. And seeing somebody who went to school at a place where I saw so many games of baseball, basketball, football, all that stuff. I was always at ISU games because of my dad and because of his work. And, he wrote this article about Paul DeYoung and in 2017. And I went back and read it for this episode because I'm like, okay, well, how the hell can I tie this into baseball? And, I hate to compare myself to a Major League Baseball athlete because I'm not at all close to that, but maybe you could see the comparison I'm trying to draw here. After all that shit, after all that time, and after all of that preparation and all of that, there was a very slim reality in my head to where I saw this show going extremely well. And I feel like it went extremely well. And that feeling and being up there and not being uncomfortable, feeling good, being funny, just saying shit. I'm sorry if this sounds like a fucking ego trip right here. I'm trying to tie this together in the best way possible. I'm critiquing myself as I go, I guess. But man, I've always remembered what Paul DeYoung did in his major league debut just because of how close I was to his story and how much I was, aware of the circumstances of how he got there. And, he was called up. He flew in late to Denver. He landed in Denver at like the second or third inning. And his parents beat him to Coors Field. His parents got there first. Paul DeYoung lands in the second or third inning, gets there, signs his contract, gets dressed, pinch hits later in the game, and then and again, very first at bat, takes Greg Holland deep and hits a home run in his first at bat. So I've always remembered that shit. And now as an adult, 2017, I was graduating high school when this happened. And, now as an adult, after working towards some shit that took a while to get there, again, I feel like a jackass comparing myself to a Major League Baseball player in any way. This is possibly the closest I've ever come. But, if you want to call me a bitch, whatever, I don't care, dog. Go to the Bullpen Podcast Instagram. We're retiring the Bullpen Twitter. I don't have the energy to get on Twitter. That app's fallen by the wayside to me. I'm very rarely on there. I like how this just went from me comparing myself to a Major League Baseball player to plugging the podcast Instagram. Isn't that hilarious? Anyway, dog, I still feel like shit. But man, I've always remembered that. He gets there late. He fucking hits a home run. Paul DeYoung, he's still got a chance too. He can still play. I hope he still gets an opportunity. I'm honestly not sure if he's signed at the moment. I should have looked that shit up. But fucking great guy. I got to meet him in Peoria when he was coming up through the Cardinals system, and just an incredibly nice guy. And I was very lucky to be able to have that opportunity to meet this guy and feel so close to a a guy doing something so fucking cool that clearly took a very long time for him to get to that moment, and even through the crazy fucking circumstances of getting there late. You fucking fly out of Memphis. You can't, you have to. Let me pull up this story again. Thanks, Dad. But you see, you try to fly out of Memphis. That doesn't work out. And so then where did he go? Missed the connecting flight out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Then flew to Detroit and then went from Detroit to Denver. Again, like I said, landed in the second or third inning. Signed his contract that day, got dressed, got to the dugout, got in the game, hit a fucking home run. You can't ask for much better than that. Greg Holland, I think, was a pretty good reliever at the time, too. That was nothing to sneeze at. This happened in the ninth inning. Ninth inning, Cardinals down 8-3. Let the kid get in there and let him hit it. He knew he hit it well. And I've enjoyed watching Paul DeYoung play the game ever since. Again, man, such little structure to this fucking show, but that's part of this show. That's part of how this goes. It's now 11:37, so I might have to cut this off and make sure I have time to get this thing up before midnight and keep my promise here. But we're gonna keep this thing going. You see the title, Welcome to the Show. Paul DeYoung's Welcome to the Show was way fucking cooler than mine, but I was lucky enough to do very well at my first show ever and get paid a little bit for it. So I had $30. I got $30. So the first time I ever got paid to do some fun shit. To put it point blank, first time I ever got paid to do some fun creative shit, and that's not something that you're gonna forget, dog. So again, I don't know how well I put these two ideas together. If you're still listening to this point, thank you very much. I appreciate it. As I said in episode 74, I'm gonna keep, this stand-up shit's not going away. It's the thing now. It's happening. I enjoy it. It's worth doing, and I'm so fucking lucky for that. And for the longest time, I did not think this was a possibility. I've been doing comedy very consistent since late December up until now, and now it's early March, and that shit's not slowing down. There's nothing else for me to do. There's comedy, and then there's all the other fun shit that I want to do as well. But man, I mean, it's I might spend the rest of this lifetime on this podcast trying to properly articulate that feeling. I don't know if I ever will, but if you listen to me attempt to do it right here, again, I really appreciate it. And Paul DeYoung, you're a fucking dog. Always will be a dog. You got that power. You got that glove. And I'm not a Major League Baseball player, but Paul DeYoung is. And he was ready for his fucking moment. And that was 100 times scarier than the shit that I just did. I wish I had a better closer. We're going to call it right there. I got a show coming up later this March. Again, we're going to keep that shit going, man. And if you listen to this podcast, I always sincerely appreciate it. So have a great fucking weekend. And we'll be back next Friday. Again, the Bullpen Podcast on Instagram. You should be able to find that thing. It shouldn't be too hard. I've been, posting stuff on there most days. So, hopefully I can grow that spot a little bit. But yeah, man, 2 Instagram plugs. Go fuck yourself. Goodbye. Thank you again.